Returns are almost $1 trillion problem. And with the rise of e-commerce and it continuing to grow, that problem is just going to get worse. Want to talk about why? Less than 10% of products that are purchased in a store are returned. That's compared to 30% that are purchased online. And that's a huge delta. So brands that are really in the know are developing a strategy for their reverse logistics programs to be able to drive customer loyalty and repeat business through their returns management process. Companies are also finding now more than ever, it's really emerging as a really big deal in the investment world, that having a high ESG rating relates to better performance metrics overall. And so companies that have high ESG ratings are actually considered more investor worthy. How does this all tie into returns, and what is reverse logistics? Reverse logistics is an area of supply chain management where the end consumer receives a product, they're unhappy with it, and they want to return it. And so that item is reversed into that supply chain again. So the item is reversed from the end consumer back to the original seller or the original manufacturer into their warehouse. And obviously there's movement that is involved, so that's why it's called reverse logistics. Customer receives a product that they're unhappy with. Processes such as returns or recycling is a part of reverse logistics. It can also include processes where the end consumer themselves are the ones that are responsible for that disposition, which would be, recycling, disposal, refurbishing, resale. It could be any of those different things. Traditional product flow starts with the suppliers and then goes to the manufacturers or the distributors. And then from there, it goes to retailers and customers. Reverse logistics management actually starts at the end consumer and moving in the opposite direction, returns products to any point along the supply chain. Well-designed supply chains are responsive to changes and can handle reverse logistics. The reverse process can return products one step back in the chain or all the way to the original supplier. They can even send return products back to a regular sales or even discount channels, which is known as the value chain, which includes like liquidators. Returns are a major source of expenses for most companies. If you look at a company's P&L, there's usually a line item for that, and it's usually a much larger number than what most people actually want it to be. So there are some things that you can do to bring that down, and that includes, of course, decreasing your storage costs and decreasing your transportation costs, which are usually pretty critical numbers when it comes to the management and the expense of a return. So having a strong strategy can help there. Also, it really can drive brand loyalty. So if you have a customer who returns something, they have a great experience, they're going to want to come back because they know that the company is going to do the right thing. And then also it can drive more revenue because the customer, if you offer exchanges, then all of a sudden the customer is spending more money with you even though they are returning something because they're getting something in return. And additionally, there's a couple other things about returns that are really exciting at this point. You can tell amazing social stories with donations. So let's just imagine that you had 5,000 laptops that were slightly used that you couldn't sell as new. Donate those to an underprivileged community, and all of a sudden you have this amazing social story where you gave people access to internet when that is, how do you live if you don't have that at this point? And then finally, in terms of your investment potential, like your company's value from an investment standpoint, if you have a high ESG rating, that's going to drive your investment, your investment worthiness within your company. Reverse logistics moves goods from their traditional endpoint in the supply chain back at least one or more steps. And this process can involve various plans and controls, and some companies prefer to outsource this process. If you have a high rate of returns, then you probably want to have your reverse logistics and your forward logistics operations co-located, meaning your 3PL who is shipping your goods also needs to have a very, very strong ability to handle returns. If you have a very low percent or a low rate of returns, this really isn't that, it's not that necessary. And so you can have a third party that's completely outside of your normal 3PL or distribution network handle that for you, and there's no problem there. But the higher your rate of returns goes, the more it's important to have that co-located facility. And the reason for that is that if you are, if you're receiving 50%, 30% of your goods back, then you want to be able to take anything that is sellable as new and reverse it back into your inventory as soon as possible so that it can be sold. So if you want to learn how, watch this next video.